What's up everybody, I'm Zach, I'm just a simple chef, and today we're going to learn how to make Hollandaise. I'm going to be putting it on 3 different types of eggs Benedict. It's going to be awesome, delicious, and I hope you try this at home. Alright, so as with everything that we've done before, we want to make sure that we mise en place all of our ingredients and get everything prepped before we start anything, because it'll make everything simpler.
Alright, so we're going to get our butter into our pot. We're going to open up our English muffins, Canadian bacon, then we're going to get our tomatoes for our vegetarian Benedict. Get those sliced up. Then we're going to work on our chives for our garnish for our traditional. Set that aside. Then we're going to pick up and pull apart our fresh dill for our lox Benedict. Got some capers here, gonna drain them, set them aside. And now this is how I get my egg yolks when I'm doing more than one egg. It's a simple trick. I hope you guys use this. Makes life a little bit easier. So you put them all into one container, and then you kind of fish out and roll it between your fingers to get all the whites off. And that's it. It's super easy. So when we have to do 20 or 40 eggs at a time, this is like the fastest way, in my opinion. I know it is a little messy. Now we're going to get our smoked salmon for our lox Benedict. Here we're getting our water boiling for our poached eggs, and we're also going to get our butter on the stove, and we're going to bring that and melt it on a low heat. Now we're going to roll out our lemon for our Hollandaise, a little bit of lemon juice. Get some fresh squeezed lemon juice. You don't want to use that store-bought stuff. Fresh squeeze, trust me, it makes a total difference. So we're going to add a little bit of white vinegar into our poaching water. It's going to help keep the yolks together, along with our little swirl trick. So I'm cracking each egg that I'm going to cook in its own container. It'll make it easier to pour into our poaching liquid. So here we're swirling it, and this will help wrap the whites around the yolk and keep it kind of together. And don't be afraid to add more than one egg to this. They'll cook almost at the same rate. But stir before you add another egg. There we go, all 3 eggs. And then we're going to cook this for a little bit until you can start to see the whites turn, or the clear liquid turn white. And then we're also going to pull it out and touch it. And you can tell by touching it if it's too soft or too hard. And then just pull it out at the consistency that you like. I like mine to be soft. And then we're going to dry them on a paper towel before we use them later once we reheat them. So here we're going to saute up some spinach with some salt and some fresh cracked pepper with a little bit of butter. And that butter that we use is the same butter that we're going to use for our Hollandaise sauce. Same thing, We're going to put this onto a paper towel to take away the moisture because the spinach definitely pulls out a lot of moisture. So, toasting the tomatoes with butter, salt, and another fresh cracked pepper. And then just saute them a little bit and set them aside because we're going to reheat them later once we're ready to build our Benedicts. Toasting our English muffin. Some butter. It's a little toasty. Doing our Canadian bacon. We're just going to brown each side. Just give it a little color. And here is all of our mise en place ready to go. So now we won't have to fumble when we're making our sauce.
I just wanted to say, if you're liking everything so far, please hit the like button. I really appreciate it.
So here we're going to heat up a pot with about a half an inch to an inch of water on the bottom so that when you put your bowl on it, it won't touch the water. It's essentially called a double boiler. Here we're adding 3 egg yolks, about 4 splashes of Tabasco, 2 splashes of Worcestershire, and a tablespoon of lemon juice and a little pinch of salt. And we're just going to whisk this together so it's fully combined before we add it to the double boiler. You always want to season your yolks, just my rule of thumb. So we got our butter, our water. The water will help us thin out the Hollandaise if it gets a little too thick. So here we're tempering the eggs. We do not want it to scramble. So you want to pull it off every 15 to 20 seconds or so that you can control the heat of the yolk. And you'll see you're going to want it to not close when you whisk it as fast as it would like it is now. So you'll see when we get to the point where your eggs are ready to have the butter added. So I'm just vigorously whisking the yolks and pulling it off the water. Nothing scary about this at all. So you see how it's starting to not close once you pull the whisk through it. It's kind of ribbony. So this is about the time where we're going to add our butter. So I like to put a towel down on the pot because it will help you from having the pot and bowl go all over the place when you're adding the butter, because you got one hand on the butter and one hand on the whisk, and it kind of just holds everything in place. So here we're going to add a little butter at a time, and we want it to be fully combined before we add any more butter or add the water. So we're going to add a little bit more butter, just a little bit more, get it fully combined. Now it's kind of getting a little thicker than I would like, so we're going to add a little bit more water so we can add more butter to it. And you want to make sure that's fully combined before you add the next set of butter. And our water is still steaming, so I didn't turn the heat off. So it's getting to that nice consistency that I like in my Hollandaise. So I'm going to add just a little bit more water. And I'm going to add a little bit more butter because butter is wonderful flavor. And then I'm going to taste it to make sure that it's got a good level of acidity and buttery and eggy goodness. And make sure that it doesn't need any more salt. So here, I taste it. Tastes pretty good. And that's it. So you can keep this stored for a couple hours at room temperature if you must, if you're doing a party or something, but you may need to add a little bit more water to it to thin it out. But I used it within about 10 minutes, so I wasn't too worried about it. And you can also keep it in a thermostat. So here I'm just heating everything up. The Canadian bacon, the spinach. We're gonna heat up the eggs just for like 30 seconds just to get them kind of warm. Heat up our tomatoes, and then we're just gonna pull everything to the side and plate up. So we're plating up our traditional Eggs Benedict. So I'm doing 3 pieces of Canadian bacon, the poached egg. Now we're doing the vegetarian. So we got our spinach. We're gonna add our sauteed cherry tomatoes, our poached egg. Here we're gonna add a little bit of fresh dill on the bottom, and then we're gonna add our nice smoked salmon and really pile it on there and make like a little pocket for the poached egg. And now we're topping it with the beautiful buttery Hollandaise. So 3 egg yolks was perfect for the amount that I made. I only had a little bit left over. I probably could have made another Benedict. So here we're gonna add our garnish, the chives, smoked paprika, a little bit of capers, and a little bit of dill on the top of the lox. I put a little bit too much smoked paprika. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. Would have just like a little dust, but my shaker didn't want to agree with me. And there you have it.
All right. Eggs Benedict with a beautiful Hollandaise. So we got the traditional Eggs Benedict with Canadian bacon, poached egg, and the Hollandaise. This is a vegetarian. Got the spinach, roasted cherry tomatoes, poached egg with a little Hollandaise and a little smoked paprika. And then this is like a lox Benedict. So we got some fresh dill, got the smoked salmon, the Hollandaise, some capers, and the poached egg. So let's go ahead and try each one of these. Let's get a little of that yolk. It's so good. I mean, just look at that. Beautiful. Let's try this bad boy. Wow. So sauteing that spinach with the salt and pepper and a little bit of the butter. Same thing with the cherry tomatoes. It's a perfect pair. And that yolk and the Hollandaise. All right, let's see. Let's see. All right. So good. It's so good.